Hello, I'm Bro Mopar.
I'm Dark Phoenix. Help! I married a nerd!
This is the podcast where normally I, Bro Mopar, would drop a nerdy topic on my wife, Dark Phoenix. We would discuss and hilarity ensues. However, we saw Star Wars Episode 7 last night.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, and we pretty much agreed walking out of the theater. That's what was going to be our topic today. So we're not really coming into this one cold. We both have 3 points that we chose that we want to talk about the movie. And I want to warn you right now, this is going to be a very heavy, spoiler-filled podcast. So this is really the only warning you're going to get. If you have not seen the movie yet, do not listen to this podcast. Wait until the movie, you've gone to see it. Or if you just don't give a shit about spoilers, then fine, sit in. But I really highly recommend anyone who has not seen Star Wars Episode 7 to just hit pause now.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Exactly, that's what's going to happen. So proton torpedoes are locked on, and we're flying in. So I want to start off with initial thoughts. I mean, what were your thoughts going into this thing? First episode we talked about it at length, but that's a lot different than being in line at the movie theater.
Well, initially, I had not paid attention to any of the articles, the talk at all, because I figured I haven't been out to the movies in years, so I was going to have to wait till it came out on Redbox, and by then I wouldn't care if I did or didn't read a spoiler here or there, but it just didn't matter to me. But getting to go, you get there, you're in line, you feel the excitement from all the other Star Wars nerds, just like you, seeing little kids dressed up. That starts getting you pumped up, and even though I'm a Star Trek fan, I'm also a Star Wars fan. I love both. I like Star Trek a little bit more, but there's always that special little place in my heart for Star Wars.
Right.
Always has been. So when you hear that first beat of the music start, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets you all of it in that 1 second. Just, and you just feel it, and then you get excited, and it was amazing. I couldn't have asked for anything more. Well, maybe a couple of little things, but, overall, it was such a great movie. I was very impressed with what they did.
Yeah, I admit, I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought I would. I mean, especially if you listen to our first episode, I was very skeptical of this movie. I wanted to pretty much avoid it. My initial plan, I was telling people, I'm not getting anywhere near a movie theater until January. And then
I said the same thing. I didn't really care either way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, there's all the hype, and then there's all the movie, and it's like, okay, there was a ton of hype around episode 1, too, and look how that ended. So I was really worried, and I'm still worried for the longevity of this movie, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, once you got in line, I mean, the adrenaline was flowing, and the excitement was building, and eventually I couldn't wait to get in. And you see the big Star Wars and then the text crawl, and it's just like, yeah, I was applauding with everybody else. I mean, everyone in the theater was crazy excited.
I think one of the reasons I wasn't paying attention to it as much is because it was getting so oversaturated in the media. It was like almost an immediate burnout before it even started.
Yeah.
So I don't think I necessarily gave it the credit that I should have.
I started seeing little window ads in pretty much every web browser, every homepage. YouTube, DeviantArt, Yahoo. You couldn't escape it, and it was just like, come on.
It was overkill.
Yeah.
The hype was definitely overkill.
Yeah,
so.
The hype train was definitely out of control on this one.
So that kind of took away some of the, pending excitement that I would normally have for this kind of movie.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Hollywood needs to figure out that just because you throw commercials everywhere, there's a point where you're doing too much and you're getting people too psyched up. And that's true even for a juggernaut like Star Wars or Star Trek. I mean, you start putting ads everywhere and trailers and all kinds of crap, and the trailers for Batman v Superman, which we were talking about, where people are like, you just gave away the whole freaking movie, and now everyone's going to go into the movie pissed off. So you run that risk, and they almost got to that point with Star Wars, I think. but they didn't, and we went in and we loved it. And so I'm gonna give you kind of a chapter of contents here, or table of contents here. We each got 3 points we want to bring up. Dark Phoenix was kind enough to write them down for me, for the both of us. The first thing I want to bring up is, even though this is called Episode 7, this is a reboot. This is not really a sequel. The next thing, and I think this is going to be a big sticking point until now, between now and when Episode 8 finally does come out. And I think there's going to be a big reveal in Episode 8 that's very similar to Episode 5. Who are Rey's parents? Where did she come from? Who left her on that planet, on Jakku? And then the origin story, both the First Order and the Republic, but also the Resistance. We kind of sort of get an idea where the Resistance comes from. They seem to be sort of internal to the First Order, but where did the First Order come from? Who's the Republic? Were they always there? Did they rise out of the rebellion? How did that happen? So those are the 3 things that I want to talk about in this podcast.
And as for myself, I would like to discuss how I was completely taken off guard by Han Solo's death. Now, a lot of people have said it was, predictable, and I think because of the fact that I wasn't paying attention to anything Star Wars related, that's probably why I was taken off guard. So, maybe that was a good thing because it made that moment that much more meaningful.
Yeah, maybe, because I wasn't surprised at all. When I saw it coming, and I was just like, damn it, they're actually going to do it.
Yeah. Second one was that I just didn't really like Kylo Ren all that much.
Yeah, I didn't either.
We'll get into more of that later. And the last thing was the ending. I thought it was okay. I just felt it was missing just a little something.
All right.
So, those are my 3 topics.
All right. Well, since traditionally we start off with me dropping a nerdy topic on you cold, I'll just go ahead and go with the first one. Episode 7, not a sequel, but a reboot. I did actually mention in our first podcast that I felt that episodes 7, 8, and 9 were basically going to be episodes 4, 5, and 6. I stand by that. In fact, I stand by it now more than ever. I feel pretty vindicated saying that because there was so much similarity between episode 7 and episode 4. Right down to some of the plot points and where they happened in the movie, and even some of the things that were said. The movie opens up with stormtroopers, slaughtering people in this village, in a desert planet, which, in episode 4, as you remember, stormtroopers were slaughtering people on board a ship in orbit of a desert planet. So, there's very little difference there. And during the battle, Poe Dameron, who, by the way, is my new hero. I love this guy.
He was pretty damn cool.
He puts secret data in a droid and sends it off, and eventually it has to get to the same person it had to go to in episode 4, General Leia Organa instead of Princess Leia Organa.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's the biggest one right there. Towards the end of the movie, of course, they're flying through a trench trying to get to this thing. It was a lot shorter, but still, it's there. There's a star crushing, super weapon that blows up planets. Yeah. About a third of the way through the movie, it does blow up planet. Instead of blowing up 1, it blows up 5. Of course, the Millennium Falcon's in it, but the X-Wings, usually new X-Wings, but come on, after 30 years, X-Wings and TIE fighters are all you got to fight with, and there's a ship in orbit that is a Star Destroyer with a little bit of stuff added to it, but it's still a Star Destroyer.
Maybe they were practicing recycling.
They're practicing not innovating anything.
Well, as far as either calling it a reboot or a sequel, I don't think either one necessarily fits. I think this is episode 7, right?
Yeah, it's episode 7.
Okay, so
hence the name, episode 7.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were aware of that. It's right there on the movie poster.
I know.
Episode 7.
Okay,
the V and the I and the I. Yeah.
I can't read Roman numerals.
Okay. Well, trust me. It says episode 7.
Anyway, it's the next episode, the next chapter in the story. Now, of course, you're going to have some of the old characters. Because that's a continuation of the story. And so that doesn't make it a sequel, because sequel means it's just, the next movie of that. But it's not quite the same.
I think I understand what you... Well, because there's been so much time between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, it really is hard to call it a sequel, because, how do you explain that time gap? I mean, the actors are 30 years older. What was going on? Yeah. I mean, sequels are typically within a couple of years. Yeah. So that time gap really throws that off.
Yes, it does. That's why I'm saying you can't truly say it's a sequel, but it is the next chapter in the story. Hence, it can't be a full reboot, because it's the next chapter in the story. It's just continuing. It's not saying the exact same story over again, just with new people, as they did with Star Trek. That was a reboot.
Well, see, the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars is that Star Trek told a completely different story. I mean, even Into Darkness, which brought in Khan Noonien Singh, is still a completely different story. So Star Trek has the right to call itself a reboot. Star Wars Episode 7, I don't think has the right to call itself a sequel, because it really does tell the story of A New Hope pretty much all over again, with new characters. And there's the old ones too, but I mean, really, how big of a part, other than Han Solo and Chewbacca, Leia doesn't have a big part in this movie. No. Luke doesn't have hardly any part at all.
No, but a true reboot would be them redoing A New Hope with just new people playing the original characters of Han Solo, Princess Leia. Of course, that would never fly, so we'd never have that kind of reboot.
Yeah, that's why I think they did it this way. They called it a sequel, but they really just retold the story. They brought in the old characters, but they brought in new characters too to kind of replace them. I think who was? I think it was maybe it was Greg Miller or Carl. I was listening to the Kind of Funny guys earlier today. We were watching the video briefly, and one of them actually brought up how Poe Dameron's basically the Han Solo character, and Kevin Smith even talked about how Rey is the Luke Skywalker type character, but of course a female.
Yeah.
Finn is a new character we never had before. Phasma, I think, is going to end up being the Boba Fett of this trilogy.
I could see that.
Yeah, and of course we got General Hux. Who people are already saying is basically Grand Moff Tarkin, but he lives.
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. I mean, I didn't really look at it that way at all. That's why, to me, I can't classify the movie as either a reboot or a sequel. It's just a continuation of the story, but updated graphics and a few things to appeal to younger masses.
Well, there's one more thing, and this is what I want to end my point on, is that this movie doesn't really call back to the classic trilogy hardly at all. There's only a couple of moments where they really reference anything in the prequel trilogy. A couple of them, like on the Millennium Falcon, when Finn picks up the remote that Luke was training with and tosses it aside, and then he accidentally turns the game on. There's a point later on where they're by the way, towards the end of the movie, they're in a war room, and the Star Killer, planet destroying planet super weapon is about to blow them up.
And they're all standing around.
Yeah, they're all standing on a little screen. And by the way, they had 15 minutes, which, if you remember in A New Hope, when they discovered the Death Star going around Yavin, they had 15 minutes before it was in range to fire. So, I mean, it's just things like that which tell me that this is a reboot. And, and when you really stop and think about it, if you go back and you look at this movie, the past that is referenced is all after Return of the Jedi. It's Luke trying to rechain a new order of Jedi. It's Kylo Ren turning on him. It's Rey being left on Jakku for unknown reasons by unknown people who leave, and that's my next point. But we'll get to that.
I could see it being that way. Yeah. I mean, I can kind of see it when you say it like that.
So yeah, I mean it solidifies my belief that this is a reboot. But anyway, I want to get to your point next. You wanted to talk about you're taken completely surprised by Han Solo's death.
Oh my God, was I ever? I did not see that coming at all. I really didn't. I mean, like those few seconds before it actually happens is when the dawning realization finally hits you, but it doesn't fully hit you until you see the lightsaber go in them and you're like, no.
Well, I think even then too, he's because he's standing there for so long before the saber's pulled out.
I mean, they give you that false sense.
Yeah,
of,
you almost
like,
feel like, okay, he's just gonna
it's
fall
gonna
to the
happen.
deck and he's gonna be wounded and Chewie's gonna get him out and they're gonna save. But no, he falls off and then he's gone forever.
And the reason I was taken completely off guard again came back to there was so much advertising that I ignored and didn't read any of the articles. So I went into this completely blind, and I think because of that, it made that one moment for me hit that much harder because I really was taken aback by that.
Yeah, see, I wasn't. I mean, I was talking to friends and listening to people talk about this movie, and of course, I watched a couple of the trailers, and there was a general consensus. I think I even posted a blog about it, how there were rumors going around that somebody was going to die, and a lot of people were calling it Han Solo. So I wasn't surprised at all when that scene came up, and so the scene for me it lost a lot of that gravitas because as soon as he goes walking out and he sees Kylo Ren walking across the catwalk and he goes walking out and he decides he's going to follow him, that's when I knew, all right,
Yeah.
this is who we're going to lose.
And I'm sure it still hurt you to see that and everything, but you know, both of us watching that same scene from different perspectives, I think in the end, me not knowing anything about the movies prior and ignoring it made that moment so much better.
You actually felt the true impact, the impact that I didn't feel.
Yeah,
So,
I was
yeah.
crying. I admit, I was crying my eyes out.
I remember.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty hefty moment. It was a really sad moment. You got Kylo Ren standing there, and we'll get to this later on. But he's torn. He's like, he actually tells, I don't know. He basically tells Han, just like, I know what I have to do, but I don't want to. You know, I mean, he doesn't say it in those words, but you can see in his eyes he doesn't want to do this. He has to. He does it because he has to. Where have you heard that before? Oh, I don't know. Maybe on the Endor moon when Luke's confronting Darth Vader. Okay, I'll stop bringing stuff that up. But yeah, and so
It was a very powerful.
But yeah, and the question I want to bring up is, was that necessary? Was that necessary in order for us to move Star Wars forward?
Probably in as far as understanding who Kylo Ren is more, yes. Because if it was never brought to light who his parents were, then we wouldn't really know how he, becomes the way he becomes.
I think too this is necessary because it's got to set up a certain plot point later on, which we'll probably see in episode 9, where the light side starts to take hold of Kylo Ren again. During this scene prior to it, in fact, I think just prior to this scene where Han dies, he's meditating and he says, I feel the call of the light side. Please help me, grandfather. And of course, he walks out of the room and there's Darth Vader's half melted mask.
It's interesting to see him fighting that.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to see how early on they established it as well.
Yeah.
That is one departure from the classic trilogy. In Vader, we always felt that he was just an evil son of a bitch, and you wanted him dead right up until that final moment that he finally does turn to and you only see it just before it happens.
Yeah,
it's the only time you
there's
really see it.
a little bit of lightness left in him, but it's so faint that it just gets overpowered, unfortunately.
But it was just enough. It finally became the spark that set off the flame that brought him back.
Yeah. Okay, so your second topic.
Yeah, I was starting to segue into this, and then I changed my mind. So I apologize for the abrupt change in change in format here. But Rey's parents, who are they? Early on, it seems to be at the very least implied that Luke Skywalker is Rey's father.
Okay, maybe I'm daft, but I didn't get that until maybe 3/4 of the way into the movie.
I think it isn't until about then, because it isn't until, remember, in the marketing, it's very played up. You see Finn with the lightsaber. You never see Rey with the lightsaber. You never see anything to indicate that she might be Force sensitive. And until about 3/4 of the way in, we find out, oh wait, she is Force sensitive. And that's when the wheels start to turn. It's like, okay.
Right, because then you backtrack and you look at how she was raised and how she acts and how she dresses, and it's almost a female version of Luke.
Yeah, and how she can fight with the staff, and then how she can fly, and she's a mechanic, and all this stuff.
And then when she
realized, scavenger.
Then when you realize has the Force, that's when it really finally clicks that, oh my God, Luke very well could be her father.
Yeah, that's just it.
What other explanation could there be?
It could be a lot of things. I mean, remember, they established early on, particularly in the prequel trilogy, that more than one lineage can be Force sensitive. So it's entirely possible that Luke is her father. It's entirely possible that Luke knows who her parents are. And maybe he talked them into abandoning her on Jakku. Maybe he did it himself because he knew what would happen. Basically, what could have happened to him.
It could have been someone else because, I mean, the Jedi weren't completely hunted to distinction. I mean, they were spread out all over.
Well, and here they call him the Last Jedi, so we're assuming that no other...
By then, that they're all died out, except for him.
Well, just before Yoda died, he even said, when gone am I, last of the Jedi will you be? So, Luke is the Last Jedi. I mean, as far as canon is concerned, that's it. I mean, yeah, in the expanded universe, there were a handful of Force-sensitive people who were descendants of the Jedi that escaped the massacre. I think there was even one Sith Lord in particular that managed to find.
But if you're saying that Luke is the last Jedi, but Rey obviously shows powers, then that wouldn't be true. Then he wouldn't be the last Jedi.
Well, she hasn't been trained as a Jedi yet, but semantics aside, I mean, semantics aside, basically the Force exists, in people, and it's just going to keep coming around. Okay, so you kill off all the Jedi. Force-sensitive people are still going to be born, so there's still... Whether they become Jedi or not, that's a whole... Yeah, so there's still a significant... So, yeah, there's still a pretty significant possibility that Rey's parents are someone we have not met yet. Will we meet them ever?
And will it be Luke?
Will it be Luke? Yeah, I think it will be. And I'm not alone in that. A lot of people, actually some people beat me to it, and they had me pretty well convinced that Luke is going to turn out to be Rey's father. But who is the mother?
Well, I do hope that he's her father. I think that would provide an excellent storyline, of course.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I really would. Yeah. And then maybe they go searching for her mother. I hope they don't do the standard, oh, well, your mother was killed, blah, 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 blah. It's, I hope, this is going to kind of spoil, your topic here, but when she finds him, and he's at that sanctuary on that little tiny, oversized rock on the water world,
yeah.
Hopefully her mother is there as well, and we'll see them both in the next movie.
Well, that would be interesting.
Yeah, so my prediction, though, is that there's going to be a large time span between episode 7 and episode 8.
Speaking
at which point...
Which, I actually have release dates for all the movies.
Right, proposed release dates?
Yes, so obviously December 18th, we just got The Force Awakens. Episode 8...
Which has already been filmed, if I'm not mistaken.
Is just called Star Wars Episode 8, set to come out May 26, 2017.
Okay.
And then Star Wars Episode 9 is slated for May of 2019.
Right.
Now, there's 2 other films in between these.
Yeah, Rogue One is one of them.
The first one is called Star Wars Anthology Film Rogue One, December 16, 2016.
Right, and then there's the Han Solo movie, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The second Star Wars anthology film about a young Han Solo, May 25th, 2018. So we will have a Star Wars movie every single year, but it'll only be every other year that we get one of the full episode movies.
Well, that wasn't exactly what I was referring to, but I do thank you for bringing that up.
I thought it was a good thing to actually note.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that... what was it, May of 2017, that means if filming isn't already done, they need to wrap here real soon, because post-production usually takes about a year, and then you got to get distribution and marketing and all this other stuff involved, and that takes a lot of time too.
But what's interesting to note is on IMDb they only have about 5 or 6 characters listed.
Yeah, it's not surprising at all.
I would have
But,
figured they'd have more by now.
Well, getting back to my original point, there's going to be a big time span between these two movies, as far as the storyline is concerned. Not necessarily the release date, obviously, it's going to be 2 years apart. Actually, no, a year and a half apart, just over. But I think there's going to be several years in between Episode 8 and Episode 9 in the continuity. At some point, either everyone's going to be back together, Ray, Finn, and Poe Dameron are all going to be back together. Probably on an ice planet somewhere, hiding from the First Order. Maybe we'll see in the crawl that the Republic has been demolished. But yeah, I think at that point, you kind of have to bring out early on in the movie, if there's going to be this huge time span, as I suspect there will be, then at some point, like very early on in the movie, probably even with the opening scene, we're going to find out who Rey's parents are. She may even just it may even be like a scene where she walks into her room and Luke's standing there and she's, hello father, and hello mother, something like that. They'd have to be very early on, because there's no way that 5 or so years would go by and she would not find out. If in Episode 8 we still don't know who Rey's parents are, it's not Luke. I'm just gonna say that straight up. It's gonna be somebody else, and whether or not she's gonna start looking for them.
Well, yeah, no matter what, we'll find out who her parents are in the next one.
Getting to your point, number 2.
My number 2 point was that I wasn't quite the fan of Kylo Ren, and I know that's gonna hurt so many young boys' feelings, who love Kylo Ren, think he's awesome and amazing. Yeah. But he had undertones of Hayden Christensen, of being a whiny little bitch, but then in showing his rage like you wouldn't believe. As a toddler.
Yeah.
Having a temper tantrum.
Yeah, he was not at all convincing.
No, it was... his acting, it all felt so forced. It just...
He was better with the mask than without it.
He was definitely better with the mask than without it. When they had the reveal and he actually takes his mask off, I was like, okay.
Excruciatingly underwhelming,
It was very underwhelming, and that was disappointing. Yeah. I was very disappointed with that.
I mean, at that point, because there's nothing special about him. He doesn't look like Han or Leia at all. No. It wasn't Luke. There was no reason for that kind of reveal. They could have just had him in a meditation state or whatever, and someone walks in and he just looks up and he doesn't have his helmet. There's no reason to make a big deal out of that.
Yeah.
There was nothing to make a big deal about.
It felt like a waste, and it, like you said, it didn't feel like you thought that Han and Leia were his parents at all. I mean, they didn't look like him. No similar mannerisms. I mean...
Yeah, I had no idea until Han told Leia, I saw her son on, on the other planet or whatever it was.
Well, and I think that's an interesting storyline until, he pulls the mask off and looks like nothing like either of them. He just looks like this little pretty boy.
Well, the potential is there, and don't forget, at the end, his face gets slashed. Which I disagree with entirely as far as a creative decision. I think he should have died. Personally, I would have been happy if Rey had just killed him right there on the spot.
I like the idea of the character. I just think they could have done so much better with the character. I like that Han and Leia's son turned bad, and we don't really have, a full story as of why. Just kind of a general, his training went bad. And that's it. But.
Well, I'm sad to say I never liked Kylo Ren from the beginning. He's just too much Darth Vader. I mean, the explanation where he's obsessed with Darth Vader, he worships him, and he has an altar with Vader's old helmet on it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, trying to use that as an explanation as to why you brought him in, I mean, I can appreciate that, but the execution just didn't work.
And it's been used before in many other types of movies.
Oh, yeah, like, I don't know, Episode 4, 5, and 6.
I meant aside from Star Wars.
Yeah. I'm not giving that up. I mean, I will stand by that till the day I die. We're getting a reboot of the series.
Well, since Kylo Ren isn't dead, if they do bring him back, which I'm sure they will in 8, I hope that we get a bit more of a backstory and that maybe his character will develop a little bit better.
Well, Leia's still alive, so I'm sure at some point she's going to go into some kind of exposition about Kylo Ren and what happened, and we'll get a little bit more because she's going to be, I think Leia is going to be a much bigger part of Episode 8 than she was in Episode 7. Episode 7 was really kind of Han sort of escorting all the new characters into the new continuity. And he did an amazing job of it. He brought everybody in, and now it's time to look. We've got Poe, we've got Finn, we've got Rey.
Yeah.
We found Luke, BB-8.
True.
They even introduced a couple of new pilots. And of course, everyone on the Imperial side, we got General Hux and Phasma, and of course Kylo Ren and Supreme Leader Spook, whatever the hell. Spoke. Yeah, Spooge, whatever the hell.
But getting some more backstory on Kylo Ren, I'm definitely hoping will be in the next movie.
Well, again, this is just one movie too. And this is one performance. We got 2 movies left. He could turn it up. He could turn it up a notch. There's still hope. Unlike Hayden Christensen, who was a lost cause right from the first fucking 5 minutes he spoke. I think this guy, he might have the talent. He can turn it around. And we got a new director, and there's going to be a lot of fan backlash about him, because he's not that great, and I think it's going to show. I think he's going to be. I remember I predicted that until about March, everyone's going to love this movie, and then they're going to find something that they pick apart and they conflate, and then they say that one little thing ruined the whole movie. I think it's going to be Kylo Ren's performance.
Just like Hayden Christensen, pretty much. I mean,
it's all too familiar.
And I kind of feel bad about that, since this is almost like you said, a reboot of sorts, I guess. So if you look at it that way, for each character, to be the one that gets labeled as not a good actor, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, especially as that character, and it's a pretty important character in the movie.
Will the actor be pissed off enough to be like, fuck you, I'm gonna act the way I act, or is he going to try to?
Yeah, is he gonna pull a Hayden Christensen, or is he gonna take the fan criticism to heart? It's hard to say. I don't know this kid. I don't know him from Adam.
I mean, not that he shouldn't, portray in the way he wants to portray, I suppose, as an actor.
Well, in the end, the director's got a vision of who Kylo Ren's supposed to be, and you're the actor. You follow that vision. So, I mean, we may get one of these like, hey, don't blame me, talk to that guy,
Well, if the director liked his acting, then obviously he did something right to get in.
Yeah, well, George Lucas liked Hayden Christensen's acting. That's why he brought him into the 3rd movie, Yeah. There's no accounting for taste.
I don't really know to go with that one.
Yeah, there's no accounting for taste. But yeah, Kylo Ren was not at all convincing. The rage seemed very, very forced. As he's sitting there going, rah, 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 rah. I mean, he's taking the same strokes over and over again. Yeah. And it was not, like you said, it came off as
Even the stormtroopers knew to walk away.
Yeah, that was pretty funny, actually. But the stormtroopers were a much better part of that scene than Kylo Ren slinging his lightsaber around destroying shit.
Yeah, they were.
That's pretty bad, I mean, you should be striking fear into the hearts of everybody watching. Like, this guy is just he's a bomb waiting to grow up, and it's like, no, this guy needs a fucking spanking.
Is it just me, or do you think that they took the opportunity to give the stormtroopers a little bit more respect in this movie?
I think they really focused on that.
Did you notice that?
I noticed that a lot. We had that one guy with that melee weapon. Mm-hmm. He was kicking ass. I don't know who he was. I don't know if they ever named him. I think they took him out, unfortunately. But that guy was an ass kicker. And of course, you had Captain Phasma. She was very imposing until the very end when they made it a little kind of stupid.
But I mean, and you had the 2 stormtroopers who, turned around and walked out because they knew they'd get in trouble. Before it was stormtroopers all had to be stoic and one way, and to have any deviations.
Didn't really interact with them much. And if I remember right, I may be remembering this wrong, but in A New Hope, all the stormtroopers that are speaking, it's all the same actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's only what, like 2 or 3 times that stormtroopers were speaking. They were speaking all over this movie. I mean, really got a sense that these were human beings.
Well, you got that when you got Finn. I mean,
straight out of the gate.
And that's when it suddenly kind of hits you that, like, they're not just, mindless.
Yeah, there's people under those armor. Yeah, and they did a very good job of that. We're getting way off track here, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to my third and final topic.
I could have kept going with that one though.
Yeah. My third and final topic: what are the origins of the First Order, the Resistance, and the Republic? In the text crawl, which we mentioned earlier, they actually they mentioned that the First Order rose from the ashes of the Empire. So I think it's natural to assume, since the rival government was the Republic, I think it's natural to assume that the rebellion succeeded, bringing down the Empire, became the Republic. But the remnants, the fleeing remnants of the Empire, were able to regroup. They were able to form this new order under this new supreme leader, Spoke, whatever the hell his name is, and he was able to galvanize them in such a way that they managed to take another foothold, and then it became a rival government. And then, of course, the Republic's core world got blown up by the planet weapon.
Well, I have to agree. I mean, that's pretty much spot on. I mean, on that particular topic, I really didn't give it much thought. I just figured it was probably, something along those lines. There was some sort of, evolution going on within, all the different factions, and this is what resulted 30 years later. I mean,
Right.
Another 30 years from now, it could be completely different again.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will be. I mean, it's been like this. If you played Star Wars: The Old Republic, anyone who's listening, I know you've watched me play it. 2,000 years ago, there was no Sith Empire, and then they came back out of hiding and just blasted the shit out of the Republic, even going so far as to attack Coruscant and level a whole bunch of it before being driven off in a desperate last stand. But they carve out territory, and so this is nothing new. I mean, this has happened before, and it's happening again right now. And I think in episode 8. We're going to see a continuation of that. It's going to be the Republic trying desperately, without its core government, trying to rebuild and trying to fight off the First Order, which at this point is very galvanized.
Yeah.
And they're going to be out for blood against the Resistance.
Yeah.
They lost a lot.
Well, once again, I mean, I didn't think about specifics. I didn't go into specific detail, but definitely learning about the First Order origins is something that obviously I'm interested in, because I always love backstory. It helps me understand the characters and the situations that much better.
Oh yeah, backstory is huge. I mean, you got to have it. And in this case, I think, as sparse though it may be, I'm really looking forward. That's the thing I'm looking forward to most in the next two movies, is finding out what the hell happened. How did these two, how did the Republic and the First Order, come to be, and
what
how did
happened
they get
in
to
the
the
last
state,
30 years?
and how's the First Order going to fall? I mean, in the ninth movie, the First Order is going to have to fall in some way. Spoke's going to have to go down. Maybe Kylo Ren will kill him. That'd be really cool. Before he dies, please tell me Kylo Ren dies at some point in this movie. I agree with Kevin Smith. I want to see Chewbacca blow his fucking head off with the bowcaster.
Yeah, I think you should do that.
Yeah. Maybe have Chewbacca kill Spock. I don't know. But yeah, I know. I really want to see more of that. Episode 5. I think they're locked in. I think Episode 5, Episode 8 is going to be the same. It's going to be, the Resistance is on the run. The First Order is just on a rampage. The Republic, of course, is falling because they have no central government. And they're trying to desperately rebuild, and they're vulnerable. So the First Order is going to cut a swath right through Republic space, and it's going to be a dark time from which everybody has to try and fall back and regroup.
The more and more you explain it this way, the more and more I do start seeing it as a reboot, because as you're saying it, I'm envisioning the prior movie. Yeah. And you're right. It is a reboot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what choice do they have at this point? I mean, as far as Episode 8. Okay, the individual nuance don't necessarily have to be on an ice planet where these giant walking robots come stomping all over everybody. But
it's a rebooted continuation.
Yeah,
that's probably the closest, best description we'll get.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Han die in the first one. I'm pretty sure Leia's going to die in the next one. Maybe even Luke as well.
So you'll have the continuation, but the reboot of the same storyline.
Yeah, that overall storyline, I don't see how you could go anywhere else with it.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe the Supreme Leader, maybe the Chancellor, and a few of his cabinet members were off world. They were on a diplomatic mission somewhere.
But
so when the core worlds died, they were still able to keep.
It doesn't bother me that they're doing it that way.
It bothers me. It bothers me a lot.
Why?
Well, for two reasons. One,
It's kind of giving homage to the original.
I don't want homage to the original. I want the original to continue. I want the original story. There's nothing wrong with the original storyline.
Well, that's why I'm saying it was a combination of both. I mean, it's a continuation of the story that we've been told over the last, 6 prior episodes, but they're just using similar storylines instead of creating a brand new.
And that's what bugs me. That's what bugs me the hell out of me. Don't forget, we've had 10, 15 years of the expanded universe in which they took the original storyline and ran with it and continued it, and we got a true continuation of the series. There's no reason Disney couldn't have done that and just gone told different stories. I mean, you still have the same overarching theme where, okay, now the Resistance has become the Republic and the Empire is a shadow of its former self, the Empire is now fighting to kind of regrow, but the story potential for that is almost limitless. You could bring all these characters back and put them in different capacities. Leia could still be, the general of the army. You have Mon Mothma as the Chancellor.
Yeah.
Han's still running around doing whatever. Their son is
Maybe Disney
Kylo
felt
Ren,
it
blah, blah,
was
blah.
a safe way to go.
Playing it safe isn't. And I think it's going to blow up in their face. I really do. I mean, I'm
but
excited for this movie.
Disney's
it's really good.
a fairly safe company.
I know.
They don't take
I know.
risks.
But, don't get me wrong. I love this movie. I think it's great. But I question
so do I.
I question its longevity. I don't think it's going to be seen as that movie that we wanted 5 years from now. I think this is, by the time episode 9 rolls around, people are going to be sick of it. And be like, why are we getting the same trilogy all over again? What is this accomplishing? Maybe the new generation, people who maybe not have seen the classic trilogy or they saw it and they were just like, whatever. Let's face facts. The classic trilogy is pretty dated, both in special effects and story. But a lot of what was innovative back then.
Because it was endearing, that's why they decided to reuse it.
Yeah, I know. Well, they did it for those fans who bitched and whined about the prequel trilogy. Who did nothing but cry and moan for the last 15 years. Like, George Lucas, you ruined our childhoods. First of all, no, he fucking didn't, you whiny little bitch. And I'll stand by that till the day I die. But, yeah, there's no reason you couldn't continue the story. There's no reason to reboot it. I don't think that was the smart thing to do. I really don't. I think J.J. Abrams got away with one, but there's a new director on the second movie, and he may not be so lucky.
I've noticed almost every single one of our topics has somehow reconnected with reboot.
Yeah. The whole movie, it permeates the entire movie, start to finish. I called it in our first podcast. I said, this is going to be episode 4 all over again. And it is. It is, in every respect.
But it was still good, so, fair.
So how did it end?
It ended leaving me wanting, but not wanting in the way I was hoping for.
You wanted you wanted more.
I wanted a little bit more, and I appreciated what I got, but I just felt a little disappointed. Watching Rey walk up, and it's Luke. It's Luke, and you see him turn, and you see him, and you're just like, Luke.
Yeah.
And then she goes to hand him his lightsaber, and he just stands there staring at her.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for him to either take it or say something. And neither one of those things happens. And then they just pan out, and that's the end.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate that they had these two characters connect and, had Luke for that final scene, they could have just made it a little bit better.
They could have made it a lot better. The last 60 seconds of this movie is the only part of it that really sucked. And it's a negligible gripe at best. But
it left you wanting for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. No, seriously, she walks up to him, and they stand there for a long time. They're just staring at, like you said, they stare at each other, and she holds up the lightsaber, and he just looks at her, and it's like, hello, Luke. Say something.
Perfect ending would have been him taking it from her and then panning out and leaving.
I think they should have said something. I just should, she should have walked up, Luke Skywalker, and then that's when he turns around, and she realizes it is him, so she holds out the lightsaber, and as he walks up to take it, it's like, I should have known it would be you, and he takes the lightsaber from her, and then they pan out, and then
And that
I
would
would
have been
like to see that.
that would have been good as well. Either one of those two.
Yeah.
Both. But nothing.
Yeah. Seriously, we got nothing. The last minute of the movie, we got nothing. Yeah, like you said.
So you didn't get the good, wanting feeling of,
yeah. At the end, it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna do anything else.
It's not like, oh my god, I wonder what that means. I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
And then this time you're like, there's Luke.
You're like,
Okay.
it's Luke. It's still Luke. He's not
Luke's
doing
here.
anything. Yeah. Hi, Luke. Hi.
Here. Oh,
Okay.
bye
Well,
guys. We're
movie's over.
panning out.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
bye.
we'll see you in the next flick. Yeah.
Yeah, because first you're like, it's Luke.
Yeah.
It's Luke. It's Luke.
Yeah, it's Luke. We know.
Get on with it.
Yeah, do something.
What are you doing? Why are you panning out? Why is the screen going black? No!
For fuck's sake, you're leaving it at that.
But
Yeah.
even still, with all that said, it was a great fucking movie.
It was a great movie.
Oh, it
Yeah.
just felt good.
It really did.
Felt good. It had excellent dark moments and intense emotional moments. It had the levity that it
Oh yeah,
needed.
the movie was funny as hell.
It
There was a lot of
was.
humor in it, and the character interactions. I gotta say that is what made this movie. I could sit here and bitch and whine and cry all I want about it's a reboot, about how it's episode 4 over again,
or
blah
how
blah.
or how the actor who played Kylo Ren could have done a little better.
Yeah, but
I mean,
Rey
for all the slight nitpicking, overall this was just an awesome movie.
Yeah,
all the way around, I was not disappointed. It was excellent.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, as much as I say this is a reboot, okay, maybe it's just pride, but at the same time, it is in no way a reflection on the quality of the film. It is a very, very good film.
And I suppose if we were gonna, since we don't normally discuss movies like in this particular format at length, I'd say if we were going on a star scale of 1 to 10, 10 being best, I would probably give it an 8.5 to 9.
I give it a tiny bit lower, it was 7.5 to 8, but
Really?
it's still way above average.
But I think we're both pretty close though on
Yeah.
our assessment.
The classic trilogies would all be straight 10s, and the prequel trilogy would be 6. So I mean,
Yeah,
this is
I could agree to that.
Yeah, this
I'd
is
say
solidly
maybe
between
6 to 7. This is definitely.
yeah.
We're probably looking at like you said, maybe say a solid 8.
Yeah.
8 out of 10.
It's right between the two. It's right where it needs to be because I mean, let's face facts. The classic trilogy, the joy, the emotion that those movies brought us, we will never feel that again with another movie.
No.
Ever.
It
No.
was
So
great.
why bother trying? And that's what concerns me about the Phantom so much. I think that it's they won't rest until they get that again in another movie, and you're not going to get it. Sorry, it's never going to happen. I don't care who you put in that director's chair. You will never get that feeling again. So just take the movie for what it's worth, and for what it's worth is a lot. It really is.
And knowing that you're in that theater with, tons of other people who, pretty much feel the same way you do, are just so happy and excited to see that.
Yeah.
You just, that energy, that geekdom, that nerd energy is just the force. And it was full, and it was awesome.
Yeah. And you had great flying moments. There were great, like I said, the character interactions were awesome. The relationship between Poe and Finn was top notch. Relationship between Rey and Finn, between Rey and Han Solo, and how you really start to sense a kinship there. She latches on to Han Solo, and he actually develops a liking for her.
Yeah.
So I mean, all of that was just wonderfully done. And then I'm really looking forward to
think,
seeing how Rey and Chewbacca get along. That's going to be great.
I think the reason that they glommed onto each other was because she kind of reminded him of himself when he was younger.
Could be.
I mean, if you look at the parallels, other than the fact that she's a female, he's a male.
Oh yeah.
They're
They're talking about the Millennium Falcon, and he's just like, "What's with this little compressor?" And then she's just, "Yeah, I hated that too, and like because it overstretches the hyperdrive to say it in unison.
And she's a scavenger, and he.
Oh yeah, she's used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's used to the underground lifestyle. I think she would take to it really well. I think she did too, and that's why she latched onto Han Solo so quickly.
They were very similar in who they were.
And of course, she's one of those people who flies by the seat of her pants and very much thinks on her feet and is trying unconventional things like when they're on Han Solo's ship after it picks up the Millennium Falcon, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna if I reset these fuses, it'll close the blast doors and we can lock the gangs out.
But you know what? We actually end up getting the best of both out of her, because for as much as she acts like Han Solo, toward the end when you realize that she has the Jedi power, you see a lot of Luke in her too.
Yeah. Well, you see the light in her right from the very beginning. I mean, when she's got BB-8 and
the way she's dressed and on that particular planet, and so you see some of both Han and Luke in her.
Right. Well, what I was referring to is when she's got BB-8 on Jakku, and the guy she takes all her scrap to get food from, he's like, hey, I'll give you an ass load of food if you give me that droid. And at first she's like, food, and then she stops and she looks at the droid, and she's like, no, I can't do that. This droid's not for sale. I mean, the good in her shines like a beacon. She is the beacon of hope for this new generation.
I think instead of having like one character be kind of like Han and one character being like Luke, in these new movies,
you combine them both into one.
And that's what we have in Rey.
I think it's a smart move.
It's a very smart move, and it feels right.
Yeah, and having someone like Finn as well. We didn't have anyone like him in any of the other movies.
And
so he is a
Finn was cool.
Yeah, he was awesome.
He was funny. You felt for him.
Oh yeah. This poor guy, he doesn't know what to do. He just wants to run. He just wants to get away.
At the same time, you wanted to kind of give him a smack up the head every now and then.
Come on, bonehead. Wake up. Well, he gets that smack up the head because on the planet when they're in the cantina and Rey goes taking off, and then Han's like, hey, where's Rey? And then as soon as he hears that, he's just like, no, I can't do that. I can't abandon my friends. I can't just bail out. And so he goes back and then he fights, and I think that was really telling. That was a great scene, and like I said, he's a breath of fresh air. I mean, we never had anyone like him. It's great to see him in this movie. John Boyega did an amazing job.
And maybe he's one of those characters that they're using to appeal to the younger audience.
Well, I think he appeals to the young and old. He's a great character, and his portrayal is amazing. How do you not like Finn? I don't understand how you could not like Finn. No, he's great. Finn was cool. And Poe Dameron, like I said, he's my new hero, man. I love that guy. He's what Wedge Antilles should have been, I think.
Rey is definitely my hero.
Oh yeah, Rey is gonna be very beloved. She's the star of the whole thing. She's
strong female lead, man.
Yeah. I mean, no reason it couldn't have been a woman.
Well, it was good.
It was very, very good. So yeah, that's closing thoughts. I mean, other than just it's very good.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, definitely worth seeing again.
I would recommend to anyone. I would recommend to anyone, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, go see it.
Yeah, definitely go see it.
Because, I mean, as much as I complain about it, I think also one of this movie's greatest strengths is that you don't have to see the other movies to understand what's going on. You don't have to see the other movies to appreciate it.
It can be considered a standalone. If
yeah, very much so. Yeah, and I think what a sequel this far after the original. All right, Kat, get off my lap. You're messing with my microphone, and that shit ain't cool. But I mean, considering how far between these two are, you kind of had to do it that way. So I mean, I'm glad JJ he did that.
Well, I'm now looking forward to the next one, and I'll wait a couple years, but I'm much more anticipating it now that I've seen this one. I probably will be paying attention more than I should, and I might have to purposely hold myself back maybe so I can continue with that experience I had with the first one.
Right. Well, like I said, I mean, I question the longevity of these films, but for now, they're great. I mean, they're great for what they are.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if the fandom necessarily is going to appreciate them 5 years from now. But we'll wait and see. I could be wrong. Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I'm going to like these movies. I mean, I like the prequel trilogy, despite what the fandom wanted. I'm going to like this trilogy all the same.
Definitely. It was amazing. It was just damn amazing.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I'm Bro Mopar.
And I'm Dark Phoenix. I'm all talked out.
Someone help her. She married a nerd.